So what is search engine optimization? The definition is it is the process of improving and promoting a website in order to increase the number of non-paid visitors the site receives from search engines. And the key here is non-paid. Again, we're not talking about the paid advertisements that show up at the top of Google. We're talking about the organic links that show up on the bottom. There are a number of things. In fact, there's over 200 ranking factors that Google looks at that feeds into its algorithm that determine where you rank on Google. We're not going to cover every single one of those 200. We're going to focus on the top 10 here. And these are all things that you guys can actually do to your website right now. So once you finish this class today, you guys can go on your website and actually optimize your site for all 10 of these things. The way Google works is that they have these robots that they're actually referred to as like spiders that are crawling the internet at all times, and they are analyzing your website and every other website on the internet, and then they're reporting back to Google to say, hey, I found this website, it has this title tag, it has this much content on it, it's got videos, the images are about this, it has this alt text, and it's reporting all of this information back to Google, and then Google uses that to feed into its algorithm to determine where to rank you on the search engine results pages. And so it's really important to pay attention to these things because this is literally what Google is looking at when they're analyzing your site. So if you haven't optimized your site ever, that's really one of the main reasons that you're probably not ranking on the first page. So one of the most important ranking factors is backlinks. Essentially, backlinks are other websites that are linking to you. So for example, if I'm an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn, maybe the New York Times food section sent out a writer to write about my restaurant, and they wrote an article about me, and in that article they mentioned my website and then linked to my website. That is a backlink. And so you essentially, it's like word of mouth, right? But it's a sort of digital online version of word of mouth. So the more people that you've got talking about you is beneficial, right? Google sees that as good. It's sort of like your a score of popularity in a way. How many people are linking to you, and the quality of those backlinks matters as well. So they have to be quality backlinks and they have to be relevant backlinks. So for example, if I get my restaurant on like cigars.com, not really relevant, right? It's not really in the food category, so Google doesn't treat that the same. So that's important to consider as well. There are a number of ways to generate backlinks, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I do want to mention right now that the one way you do not want to acquire backlinks is by buying them. You never want to buy backlinks, but we'll get to ideas on how you can generate backlinks in a little bit. A couple other things that are really important are your keywords in your metadata. So metadata collectively refers to your title tag, your description tag, your H1 tag, and then your alt text for your images. And we'll cover this in the next couple slides, but essentially you want to make sure that your keywords are in those areas. And every website owner can edit their own title tags. And I'll talk about the specifics and the actual attributes of title tags in a minute here. The other one is page load speed. So you want to make sure that your page, your website is loading quickly. Not only is that a bad thing for search engines, but it's a bad user experience. And in fact, if your website is not loading within 3 seconds, actually a majority of people, I think over 50% of the people decide to leave your website if it's not loading within 3 seconds. So that's a big deal. That's an easy way to increase your conversions, is just get more people on your site and to stay there. And if you could just increase the speed of your site, that's going to help you out dramatically. It's also a ranking factor. So Google looks at this too, and they say that if your website's not loading quickly, yes, that's a bad user experience, but you're going to get deranked because of that as well. So you really want to pay attention to your page speed, and I'll show you guys a tool. It's a free tool that you can use to find out how quickly your website is loading. Another one on here is your domain age. Unfortunately, this is not one that many people can really control because if you think about it, you bought your domain when you bought it. The older the domain, the better, obviously. So if you bought it 20 years ago, that's fantastic, but you can't really go back in time and acquire a domain name in the past. So if you bought your domain name yesterday, you have to kind of deal with that, right? So that is a ranking factor, though. So if you do have an old domain that that's been sitting on the shelf for a while, it's actually better probably to use that one than it is to use one that you just acquired. So consider that also. Keyword in your domain. So if you're an Italian restaurant in Brooklyn again, that domain could contain restaurant, it could contain Brooklyn, could contain pizza, pasta, that type of thing. Including your keywords that you're trying to rank for is a really smart idea to include in your domain name. I don't recommend changing your whole brand if you've already been established for many years. I'm not suggesting that you should go out and find a new domain just because I said that you have to like have your keyword in there. But the fact is, if you are considering buying a domain now and you're just starting out, that is something you should consider to do, is to put your keyword in the domain name. Domain penalties, so Google looks at this as well. So if you've acquired backlinks in the past, you've paid for them and Google found out about that, you could be penalized. So what's really interesting about this is in the early days of SEO, there was what we referred to as black hat SEO, and it's still prevalent today, but not as much. People used to try to outrank and sort of their competitors and try and outsmart Google in a variety of ways. So for example, one of those ways was that they would actually, in the early days of the internet, they would actually try to get as much traffic as possible. And one way to do that was to rank for a variety of keywords. So let's say you're a seller of toys online, like you sell kids' toys online. If you wanted to acquire a bunch of traffic, one way you could do that if you were engaged in black hat SEO is to put a bunch of keywords on your website in white text on a white background, right? So Google would think, this is like in the late 90s, early 2000s, Google would think that your website is about all of those keywords, right? And so people got away with that for a period of time. Google found out about that. They would penalize that website. And worst case scenario, you might actually get blacklisted and never show up on Google again, right? So definitely do not do that. That's one example of black hat. The other example of black hat is actually buying backlinks. That's not a good idea, or paying for traffic to your site. Those are like highly unethical things, and Google will find out about that stuff if you're doing it. So definitely don't do it, because you do not want to get penalized. It's hard to recover from a penalty. It oftentimes takes years. Sometimes I've seen clients that actually have to buy a new domain name and start their business from scratch. That's a very difficult position to be in. So try and stay away from anything black hat. The other one here is secure SSLs, so HTTPS. So you want to make sure that your website is secure. This is a recent development as of July 2018. So if your website is not HTTPS, meaning that it does not have an SSL, you need to enable that on your site. Website builders like Squarespace and Wix and WordPress, they make it pretty easy to do that stuff. So right within your admin section, you can actually enable HTTPS. That is a ranking factor. Google is looking at that stuff. So let's move on to the other slides here, and we'll talk about some of the ways that you can actually edit this stuff. One of the most important things here is to identify your keywords, so we'll start with that. I've taught these digital marketing classes to over 80,000 small business owners. Take a look at what they have to say.
I'm a student at Baruch College actually, and I took digital marketing class. It took me a whole semester to learn the material that Steven just taught us in 2 hours.
This is my second class that I'm taking with Steven.
I would definitely recommend this to my families, friends, and coworkers. If you have a small business, it can only help you by improving the visibility of your website.
A+.
You're going to learn strategy, content marketing, search engine optimization, email, and social media. I'm proud to announce that subtitles are available for 11 languages in my course. In total, my courses have the potential to reach 5.2 billion people worldwide. That's 65% of the world's 8 billion population. I've included languages like English, Mandarin Chinese, Hindi, Spanish, French, Bengali, Russian, Portuguese, Indonesian, Urdu, and Japanese. I know you're serious about digital marketing, so I want to give you 20% off the full in-depth course. Click the link below to sign up.